24 years ago, we were staring into the abyss. We said never again, and yet there we were.
This is it then.
We speak to the players and the coaches who were there 24 years ago.
On that season, there was an atmosphere in the ground where it's like, well, no, everybody has to come together here because the consequences of what could happen just don't even bear thinking about.
Michael Ball as far away as possible.
I think I might have been the last person to touch the ball. I just remember just kicking it as far as I can. I might have gone into the main stand or somewhere, probably just sliced it. I just wanted the boot of the ball as far away from our goal as possible.
But it was a great feeling once, once your blood pressure had calmed down a little bit, you felt, didn't feel too bad. It took about an hour to sink in, but it was a great feeling, to know you'd survived.
And watched on again, this time as fans.
And because there's so much emotion involved, everybody gets caught up in it. But I think that was the biggest thing that stuck out for me, is that it can't be understated, the role that the fans played in that. And
I understand what the players are going through, the reactions of the players because of the fans. Look, if the fans down tools this season, we were gone. That was it. The fans were fantastic. That made the players stand up and be counted. And then the players ended up doing a job at the end of the day, but that was all down to the fans.
We're also joined by the bomber, Tony Bellew, to give us his thoughts 24 years apart on Everton's relegation fights.
He steps over the barrier. That vision will stay with me forever. There's thousands, and it felt like hundreds of thousands of people were on that pitch, because it's just a sea of Evertonians singing, screaming, jumping. And they've got their hands in the air, and he just puts his hands up like that. And at that point, I'm just thinking, this is nuts, mate. This is absolutely nuts. He's singing Everton songs, and yeah.
24 years on, never again.
Hello everyone, welcome to Across the Park podcast. This is an extra episode, and a quick disclaimer for myself. This feature's been designed completely by Millsy. So if it goes well, I'll take credit for it. If it doesn't, then blame Millsy. As you can see, delighted to be joined by Michael Ball, ex-Everton, England's fullback. I'm not going to name the other clubs because they don't matter right now. But Bally, most importantly, Boyers Evertonian, great to have you.
No, great to be here, mate. Let's enjoy it while we can. I know we're talking about the dark times, but look, it's got to be done. It's got to be done.
Exactly. No, cheers for joining us. So back to the actual feature itself. We're calling it 24 years in brackets, never again. Now we're going to start by going back 24 years ago, and it was ended up being a good outcome for the club. But going into the game against Coventry, which was the 10th of May 1998. Obviously very early in your Everton career, Bally. I want to kind of put you back in that position again. You're going into, at the time, as always, I guess the biggest game in the club's history, trying to avoid dropping out of the Premier League and what might come after that. Talk us through, what that was like being a Boyers Evertonian, but more importantly, being a player with the responsibility on your shoulder of trying to keep the club in the Premier League.
Yeah, not just for myself. You probably feel there's more pressure on yourself because you're a local lad, but pressure going into that game was massive just for the players, the fans, everyone at the club, the manager and the chairman. We had a difficult season. It was, I wouldn't say it's similar to what we've just witnessed last year, but we did have a lot of injuries. A lot of players moved on. The captain moved on. And we just found ourselves in going to the last game, which only when listening to other podcasts and listening to other players who have listened to talk about this feature, it brings back certain memories and it comes back to it. At the time of myself, I think I was very naive looking back. Because I was a Blue, I had that mentality. I was too young. I was 17, 18, just thinking, well, we're not going to go down. We're Everton Football Club. We're at home. We're going to win and it's fine. But when you realise it wasn't in your hands and things could have gone against you, and you could have been part of the team that took the fabulous club down. That pressure you could probably feel was more on the senior players and the guys who really understood the situation we were in. Myself, it wasn't just a normal game. Howard tried his hardest to take us away from that. Nowadays, a lot of teams at home go away to the hotel, to get a good sleep, eat the right foods, relax, be in your own company and around the players and focus on the job in hand. And he did that 24 years ago. Going into that last game, he knew the importance of it, Howard. He took us away to a hotel so we could have a good rest, be away from our families and get a good sleep. The senior players maybe had kids or whatever. And we just had to focus that we've got a big game tomorrow. And, getting towards Goodison Park, the realisation of seeing all the fans, waiting for you, the guys up and down the lamppost. You always forget his name. There's always a guy on the lamppost on top of it. I don't know how to this day he got up the top of it, but he was always there. We always looked out for him. And that's sort of, it's like game time now. We've got to go into this match and just give everything. And that's what we did. Thinking about the game, we played pretty well, especially in the first half. We got off to a good start, and I think that sort of relaxed a lot of people. It wasn't the best of games, football-wise. There was a bit of kick and rush, and no one really wanted to take that extra touch and take that responsibility. It was like, let's not make a mistake. I don't want to be the guy to make a mistake, but Gaz, I think he scored his first goal for Everton, or his first league goal for Everton at that time, and you're just thinking, yes, it's going to be our day. But as the game started creeping on, I think Waggy had an opportunity. I think we got one cleared off the line, and then doubts start creeping in, and then we get the cheer from the crowd, and we second doubt that as a player you're trying to focus on your game, but you're always listening to the Goodison crowd, the Goodison faithful, and they give that cheer that the result at Stamford Bridge is going our way, but at the end of the day we still got our job to do.
I was going to say, you briefly touched on it there. How does that feel? I mean, you're obviously aware of it. Do the players talk about it? Do you get in the dressing room and talk about it, or do you just kind of just have it in your own mind, but no one actually mentions it?
Yeah, no one spoke about it. Not what I can remember. I think it's sort of stuns you a little bit because obviously you're not used to it. You don't sort of see that week in, week out, and then obviously we're hoping on the results to go in our favour elsewhere. So you are aware. Hopefully the crowd will let us know. But when it does, it sort of probably stuns you more than anything. But then it gives you that oomph that come on, we've got a job to do. Let's get over the line here.
It's a weird one as fans as well, because before we kind of keep going with the game, just touching on it from my side of it, and as a young Evertonian, I was 13 then, so proper like match going days then when you're 13 and you're really into it. And I remember being like going up to the game and being in the toilets downstairs, and all you go to the toilet before the game, and it's just kind of quite subdued. And obviously, the toilets aren't meant to be lively places, but the singing didn't stop from the moment I left my house. I mean, I grew up off Walton Road, so just round the corner from Goodison anyway. And the singing didn't stop from the moment I left my house to the moment we got into the ground. And then as soon as the whistle went, it obviously carried on. There was still a bit of a raucous, but then it was like, wow, this is it now. We haven't done our bit because the game's kicked off. But I remember up until this season, whenever anyone asked me what's the best atmosphere you've experienced, Wimbledon, I was still quite young. Do you know what I mean? I'd always say the Coventry one, because I'd never experienced like everyone just constant. You talk about. I remember being there for the bus coming in. I could hardly see it because there was that many people there. It was a mad experience. I know people talk about it, and we'll come on to the Crystal Palace one later. And like for clubs who haven't been through it, it's a weird one for fans. Do you know what I mean? Like you're kind of excited, but why are we excited about it? It's mad. But just touching on the moment you just spoke about where Chelsea took the lead again, you get the rumours from everyone else. Is it true? Whatever, and then you cheer, and then for a minute you forget there's a game going on because it's like we've just scored, but then everyone goes, whoa, hold on, there's back to this game now. So it's a mad one.
Yeah, I think it happens to the players, because obviously if you got the ball or the goalie got the ball, you've got to get it, for myself, got to get it wide and try and implement our forward play, and when the cheer like that happens, it sort of stuns you, and then you've got to think about, what's my job? What am I supposed to be doing? Where's my man? Where's my marker? And, you touched on Wimbledon. I was there at Wimbledon. I think I was at Goodison, from 10 o'clock in the morning, queuing up, trying to get in the Gladys Street end. And I remember all them times when you think back then, it's never going to happen again. And And unfortunately, it did a few years later with myself involved. And the game was just a roller coaster of emotions, and we had our opportunities to sort of kill the game. You had the Chelsea fans or the Everton fans started cheering because the score going on at Chelsea. But then we have the penalty opportunity. And I always remember I was watching Nick Barmby, and Nick, to be fair to him, he got a good strike on it. He got a good connection on it. It's just a good height for the keeper. The keeper guessed the right way and he saved it. And then I don't know what the fans felt like, but it sort of just seemed to sort of flatten down a little bit, or like the grey skies came over. I don't know. It just seemed to be, we seemed to play a lot deeper after that. I think there was 5 minutes to go or something. I remember Nick had his hand on his head before he kicked it. And I was thinking, I should be taking this. I want to take this. And at that season, I think our penalty taker was Speedo, the captain, Gary Speed. He was our main penalty taker. He had obviously a great record of doing it, but I just felt that I wanted to take it, even though it wasn't my job. It was just I wanted to be part of it. I wanted to put my stamp on it. And Nick,
obviously, you're a young player there. Did you even go up to it? It's hard, isn't it? Because I guess
not back. I used to take them the younger age groups, and the way with England and. It would be one of the 18s, 19s. I was taking them then, so I was confident in my ability to take one. But there was never a conversation on, if say Nick wasn't on the bench, who's going to take the penalty. I was the young pup, so I was like probably the way down on the list. But you don't really want to be going over to someone going, can I take it? You're putting them off the job, and hopefully they can put it away. But then obviously when Nick missed that pen, it just seemed to be a little bit deeper. We seemed to be defending in our own box. I don't know how long, probably 20 minutes before the end, I had a bit of a bad challenge from, I think it was Huckabee. I was like alongside Telford, but Huckabee, he smashed me right in the knee. So I had a big hole in my knee. And Andy Jones, the physio, great fella, he pulled me off the side. And, look, I was in bits, because I knew what it meant to everyone. Obviously myself, I wanted to play every minute on that pitch and make sure we wouldn't go down. And I was arguing with Andy on the sideline opposite the family enclosure. We're pushing each other. He said, you've got to come off. You've got a hole in your knee. I was saying a few choice words to him, and he just knew I wasn't listening to him, and he just slapped me. I don't know if he punched me or slapped me across the face. And I was sort of like, what's gone on there? A bit shocked. And that was me game over. I was coming off the pitch. I was walking down the steps. Howard looked at me. What's up, lad? And I just said a few choice words saying that, he won't let me play. And he went, do you want to? I went, yeah. And he would get back on the pitch. So then I just turned around, ran on the pitch, and whether it was a good move or not, it was just I wanted to be on the pitch. I wanted to be a part of it. And Dion Dublin scored that goal like the last couple of minutes before the end, and that was just, oh no, because Thomas Myra, I rated him. I thought he was a decent keeper. That coming to the club under difficult times. We had, obviously, I think we started the season with Big Nev. Paul Gerrard was in between, and Thomas Myra come. So it was obviously big boots to fill. But he did make a hash of that goal. We tried to catch the ball, and it's gone in. And you're just thinking, oh no, these doubts are coming in. Let's just not make a mistake. Let's not give them a sniff. And we hung in there. We weren't playing attractive football. One bit. I think. I've missed a part there. I think John O'Kane cleared one off the line, but I don't think it was going in anywhere. I think it was a bit of luck that it didn't go in. But John O'Kane used to try and get the ball a little bit, and you could see he was hiding. He didn't want the ball. We would just let's get up the pitch, play to the front players, and just try and work off the scraps. And the problem was Coventry were deep as well. They were putting the pressure on us and were giving us space, and we were receiving the ball, but there was no one to pass to. The backs were gone. You just got to try and trust your teammates to sort of they'll just lump it, and just hope for the best. But Don Hutchison was one of them players who would take that extra touch if he got given the ball. But again, you need your whole team around you to keep the ball, keep possession, try and run the clock down. And we weren't the best team at doing that.
You look at that midfield. I mean, Nick Barmby obviously went on to have a really good season the following season, but he was still kind of settling a little bit. He wasn't really confident, was he? At the club, he hadn't had the best of starts. And Gareth Fadley, despite the fact he'd scored a worldie that day, I don't think at that time anyone would count him as a real ball-playing midfielder. Don Hutchison, very talented at that. But like you say, it's hard to be that player if you're not combining with anyone or if you've got no one to really link up with. And Big Dunk is Big Dunk, isn't he? He thrives off that long ball, and even Danny Cadamachi is someone who plays off the shoulder. So you're looking around thinking, God, it's a nightmare for a fullback. Who you playing with?
It is. You've got to try and keep possession and hope the midfielder come and get the ball off you. But as soon as you're looking up before you receive the ball, you know they don't want it. So you've got to play to your strengths. And look, you've got Big Dunk. They don't want Dunk challenging for the ball, so you know that. And then Danny came on and caused problems with his pace. He won the penalty, but off the back of I think a Duncan flick. So it causes teams up problems, but when you play that way, the ball comes back to you quick as well, and you've got to be on your toes, you've got to be chasing. And yet the relief after the game was immense. I don't think it was, I wasn't even part of the changing room back then, really. I was sort of ushered into the medical staff. I was grabbed by the neck by the physio and the doctor, and they threw up against the wall, criticising my decision to go against them. And, basically saying, I could have put the club in a worse situation with me sort of hobbling around on one leg for the last 15 or so minutes. But, it was just my adrenaline. I didn't feel any pain. I didn't feel, it was only the afterthought, walking away with, boxes of tablets and crutches and stuff that you realise the situation you were in. But, I spoke to Dom a few times over this, and he just remembers going in to see, or trying to find Howard. We had a lot of love for Howard, and we couldn't find him. There wasn't any celebrations that we probably seen, at the Palace games. It was great to see all the lads enjoying the moments of what it meant to them, but it wasn't them type of scenes. It was more of relief that we got over the line. It was down to ourselves that we put ourselves in that situation. And I think the last game we won was against Leeds, and we went on a bit of a bad run. It was just. Again, it's probably my naivety of it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's only after the game you realise how close we were to be going down and being a part of it. And Howard put himself away in his manager's room, and I think shut the door, and he was having a sort of a quiet moment to himself. And I think he was quite emotional what Dom's seen and said to us. But the lads were just a bit relieved. I went back into Belfield the next day to see the doctor and get me physio that I needed, and Howard was there, and he didn't even say much to us. He just see me on the steps, come over, give me a big hug, and then whether he knew he was leaving or then, I do not know, but I think it was just a thank you that he wanted to give to myself and the other players were there and around the place of, look, we had a difficult season. We had our disciplinary that season, I think, was really bad. We missed a lot of key players getting sent off quite a lot, and key players missing, our captain leaving. So there was loads of excuses here and there, but at the end of the day, we put ourselves in that situation, and we were lucky enough to get out of it. And you just hope that was never going to happen again in our football club.
Well, just briefly on Howard, and it's great that you brought that up. It's like, as fans, and certainly looking back at it, Howard's legacy as a player, and obviously as the greatest manager in our history in the 80s, for him to be in that position of thinking, wow, this could be the lasting memory for some of these fans of me, and I've contributed to this. You can imagine the immense weight on his shoulders, and again the relief. So it's different in it for like the likes of Frank Lampard, who no real managerial CV right now, and kind of that feeling for him would have been very different, wouldn't it? Because he's kind of came and flew in and kind of been the saviour. But for Howard, Jesus.
The pressure on Howard must have been immense. Look, he was brave enough to come back second time, brave enough to come back the third time. We needed somebody at the football club. We couldn't, there was whatever managers were available. Howard just wanted to stuck his hand up, and he wanted to be the best for this football club, for his football club. And I think he knew when he walked in. He looked at he was trying to buy some top players before the start of the season, and I think all that fell through. And then. Again, it's all money issues, isn't it? It's probably similar to the situation we're in a little bit, where they needed to sell certain players, move players on to try and get players in. You have to duck and dive, really, bringing new faces in, and some fit, some don't. That's just the way it is. And that was the type of season it was. It was just I don't know what the stats are. If you look at every team from the start of the season to the end, how many different faces we probably used. A lot of the youngsters come through. Myself, Franny even played around about that year. Cadamachi, Dunny, Gavin McCann. There's a lot of John Oster came to football club. He was a young kid, so he had to sort of use players probably sparingly, and probably players he didn't really want to use at times. But the spirit the players wanted to play for Howard, that's what sort of got us over the line. We need a situation, but again, because I was so young and so naive, it was sort of like I didn't really worry about that. There wasn't really my mindset. All I was focused on, I want to be part of playing me next week, and it's only when you start hearing sort of outside voice from your parents or from certain media about relegation, this is going to, a couple of games beforehand, and you're thinking, no, it's not. But obviously it is. I've lived through this season with Crystal Palace, so I've got to apologise to yourself and all the fans who have to go through all that, because if Everton went to the last game last year, I don't think I could cope. It was so difficult. So I'd probably give you a bit of a good learning curve of how to cope with this season, I suppose, because it was one horrendous season, and one that you're just thinking the worst. And now I can imagine, even though Wimbledon, I was there as a fan, again, for some reason, I just didn't think we were going to go down. I just that mentality wouldn't go down, and it's probably naivety, as I keep on saying. But being a part of it and the pressure of being a local kid, feels like it does mean more to me. But I don't, of course it does to me because I'm a Blue, and it's my life. But it means more to everyone, because no player wants a relegation on the CV. They want to go out and play, do the best they obviously can, and the roller coaster emotions of that game, where you feel like you could not put your foot off the gas. You got a penalty, you think 5 minutes to go, breathe in and let's try and enjoy the last 5 minutes. To then flip side where you're just hanging on by a thread to come to the end of the game. And I might have been the last person to touch the ball. I just remember just kicking it as far as I can. I might have gone into the main stand or somewhere, probably just sliced it. I just wanted to boot of the ball as far away from our goal as possible. And the referee decided to do a runner down the tunnel, and then we just knew then, with the fans coming on the pitch, it was just relief. And a moment that you don't really want to talk about, you don't want to bring it up. It's only situations like this you get to speak about it, because it's not something to be proud of. It's not something to be walking around talking about. But at the end of the day, it was my experience of being a young kid playing for Everton Football Club, and that it's easy enough coming on here talking about the good times that you had. You've got to talk about the dark times, and it's a character building for myself for getting through last season, the character building for yourselves, and my little lad who now I've got to put him through the emotions as well. So it's all good.
Oh well, listen, you've touched on it then, so I'm going to bring us up to current day. We were talking about it before we come on. It's just over a month ago since the 19th of May when we played Crystal Palace. Obviously, some of the similarities, as you pointed out, we didn't go into the very last day of the season, which was a blessing, because I don't think we would have got through that. But it was the last home game of the season, so that's obviously a very distinct similarity. And it was a game that, should we win or should we have won against Palace, was it guaranteed our safety. Now, you touched on, going into that Coventry game as a young player, it was like, I just want to play next week, and you kind of wasn't necessarily realising the implications of it. You very much were, I'm sure, this time round as a fan. I was a fan with a young lad who's going the game as well, and kind of realising everything. And there's loads more going on, isn't there? And even as an older fan, I wasn't a player, but as an older fan, I felt like a lot more stressed out about it, and it was on my mind all the time. You couldn't get away from it. As a kid, you'd have the odd Liverpool fan who maybe makes a joke about it in school, but that's it really. But as an older fan, you're going into work every day, you've got your WhatsApp groups, social media, a lot more of that going on. Talk to me about what it was like for you then as a fan, as a pundit to some extent, and what are the differences, and how was it like going into that game this time?
Yeah, I think you touched on it perfectly. I don't know whether we're trying to be older and wiser, or we think too much into it, or it's the modern society that you just don't seem to get away from it all. Kids brush stuff off. If you have a bad game as a kid or something happens in school, 10 minutes later you're fine again. But I think when you're older and slightly wiser, you start sort of thinking the worst. You think of where they're going to be next season. Your sleeping patterns are wrong. You're all over the place. You're just worried. And obviously you got your young lad, and he's loving it. go in the game. He just loved being a part of it all and singing the songs, and he just loves it. He obviously doesn't realise, and then he starts asking a few questions here and there, and you're thinking, do I have to really answer these questions? I don't really want to. And you sort of go, oh, we'll be all right. And when you're a father, when you're a fan, I understand what the players are going through, the reactions of the players because of the fans. Look, if the fans down tools this season, we were gone. That was it. The fans were fantastic. That made the players stand up and be counted. And then the players ended up doing a job at the end of the day. But that was all down to the fans. But taking my son, and my son's sitting there looking at we're 2-0 down, I was just quiet. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to do. You as a player, it's totally different because you can do something about it. You can scream at your teammates, or you can talk to them at half time. You can try and change it mid-game. You can try and game manage. You can kick someone if needs be just to get a reaction out of all your teammates around you. You can find a pass, you can cross it, you can do something, you can be a part of it. As a fan, your hands are tied, you're just sitting there trying to cheer the players on and just thinking, where's this goal going to come from? How are we going to score? And that game just seemed to think that, well, the whole season was every time we seemed to make a mistake, we got punished. And, it's not down to, it's down to individual errors, but it just seems to be Everton's season. Every time we did make an individual mistake, we got punished time and time again. And you just, Palace, as we know from the FA Cup game, we give them too much respect, and that really going as a player, as a fan, you just think, I hope that hurt them, so pay them back, and then all of a sudden you're down at home, and the crowd kept on going. But even at half time, I was just sat in my seat. I didn't stand up. I just put my head in the programme, just thinking, where's this going to come from? And credit to the players that they got back in that second half and got the goal and got the wheels sort of turning really, and the crowd just sort of edged them more and more and more. And as a pundit of my Echo situation, I understand the pressure of the players, and I try and be as fair as possible. But I also know when to, when players can hide or when they need to be stand up being counted. Look, you can have all the ability in the world, but you need to be accountable. Come off that pitch and think, look, I did it me all, and I'll call players out if they're not doing that. And that's only in my opinion, that's fair. And some players rose to that occasion. Some players took that responsibility on themselves in that sort of running. And what let us down, or in my Echo piece, I kept on talking that we're not scoring enough goals through free play. We haven't been. We've got to rely on set pieces, but our set pieces are being diabolical. We've put ourselves in some great positions and great circumstances in games, and we're just not taking the full advantage of it all, and we're letting ourselves down, either hitting the first man. I'm fine, hit the first man. That's not an issue to me, because Goodison Park is a bit of a nightmare taking corners. But I don't understand why we don't have a blue shirt standing in that area in case he does underhit it and he can flick it on. And we didn't seem to learn throughout the season, obviously because of the change of managers, change of personnel. But sometimes up to the players to go, look, he's hit this short first time, so you stand there, and flick it on. And the set pieces ended up keeping us up in the end of the day because we got a good delivery in. Dom, fantastic diving header, and look, I don't know where they ended up after that goal. It took me a while to find my son and everyone, but look, it was brilliant. And yeah, you'd rather have a more relaxed season, but them sort of memories or occasions, for me lad and myself, are brilliant. But it's not a position you want to be in. You want to be pushing for Europe and having and watching Frank really implement his own style of play. We know that's not the way Frank wants to play, and Frank probably was a little bit naive. He probably thought, like majority of the Everton fans, thought we were safe when Frank come in. We didn't think we're going to go into decline as much and try and play a certain style of play. And with injuries and with certain players, that Frank probably realised, I can't play this style. I know what the reactions they get out the Everton fans is all about commitments, and which commitment. Good teams have commitment. It's getting the balance right. But we were far too slow and lethargic, and the crowd started turning a little bit, getting a bit, I wouldn't say toxic, but it sort of gets frustrated because I haven't seen Everton pass the ball from the back and go through a team once. So I don't understand why they keep on trying to do it. We haven't sort of benefited from doing it. I think Frank learned that after a few, 5 or 6 games and changed our style, got the crowd going up. We were in sort of second ball, letting ourselves down on sort of set pieces here and there. But I think that's how we got out of it. Frank realised he can't play his style. He's got
I think
11.
Regardless of the style, it's obviously a massive factor. But just going back to the point you made about Howard and his man management and the fact that everyone wanted it for him as well. How much of a difference do you think that Lampard's personality plays in it? Because, you know, he seemed to grasp straight away that this situation needed man management and it needed kind of hearts as much as minds. Do you get the feeling that, you know, that was a big factor going into maybe the second half of that game, of not only the players playing for themselves, but thinking, you know what, the manager probably deserves a bit more from this as well?
Yeah, possibly. I think since Frank walked through the door, you know, obviously he's got the respect of what he was as a player and, you know, obviously a coach to get to the Everton job. But I think he's been fair to all the players. I think he's been very honest. I think it's been good from a fan's point of view that after the game, if he haven't played well, he's called them out. You know, he said it's not good enough, you know, and I think the players sort of understand that. You know, you can have a manager to protect the player to a certain point. There's times to do that, but there's times to call them out as well for the reaction. It wasn't good enough. We can't play a certain style. And Frank did that pretty early on. And it's down to the players to go out and do it. You know, and probably I pick one out. Alex Iwobi, he's flipped a coin for me. You know, when he comes to the football club, while he's been there, he hasn't been hitting the heights that we all expected him to do. He hasn't been taking responsibility. You know, he's a winger, or is he? You know, where he wants to play. How many assists has he made? How many sort of crosses has he put in? Has he been hitting the numbers? But I think with that game at Goodison Park, when he started chasing the ball down, you know, he ran past 3 or 4 of our own teammates, and he got that reaction. I think that's when it clicked for him. That's what the fans want to see is the, you know, determination, desire to leave everything out there on the pitch, and hopefully with a bit of quality we can win football games. And that doing that sort of spits out for the rest of the players to stand up and be counted. They go, oh, I should have done that. You know, you've run past 2 players there to go and close the ball down. You know, that's embarrassing for them 2 players. It happened to me as a player. I think Gary Speed did it when we played Wimbledon away or Crystal Palace. You know, he ran past me to close down my man. That sort of woke me up and shook me up, because I was sort of maybe daydreaming in that game, and then it picked me up and I ended up to play better that game. That's because of Gary Speed's sort of commitment and his own responsibility. And that's sort of what Alex Iwobi did. And getting that reaction, I think Frank's seen it from the outside and thought he needs to change the style. The players obviously don't want it on the CV. There's players there playing for the futures. There's players there obviously running the contracts down, and Frank somehow had to get the reaction of, you know, dangle a carrot in front of them. You know, and can you go out there and give 110%? Because that's what's needed. Because so far you're trying, but you're not trying enough, because we're not coming away with points. We had a lot of hard luck. You know, a lot of the season we had a lot of. I keep on saying we did have a lot of excuses at the end of the day. A lot of key players were missing for a long period of time. You know, centre midfield, our spine was gone. So you know, Frank's just got to. You know, he's probably throwing a dice every week. Who's fit? Who's available? Who can I count on? And they would have had team meetings about this. You know, and whoever goes over that white line, can he take a bit of responsibility and come off with a bit of pride? And Frank Lampard as a player was 100% professional, worked hard in training, said he wasn't the most technical, but he worked a lot harder than everybody else, and that's what he achieved, what he did. And you probably want that from every player on the pitch. And that probably resonated with, say, Alex Iwobi and a few other players there who know I've got ability and show it at times, but you know, if they keep working hard underneath him, you know, the coaching staff, that hopefully that starts showing at Goodison Park, and when the match day comes. And luckily enough it did, because that type of reaction from Alex Iwobi and the fans, you know, that's what helped us stay in this league.
Absolutely. We dragged you into a bit of a season review there, so thanks for that. Just to kind of round it off, because you know, I really appreciate your time, Paulie. The kind of feature, or the way Millsy wanted me to end it, is, you know, we look back at the Coventry game, and I'm certain you did. Certainly when Mashiri come in and the money came in, and all of the ambition and optimism, I don't think you could have seen that situation coming. Very few could, of us being back in that position again, last home game, needing to win. How do we avoid that happening again? And I said at the start of the show off air, it's $1 million question, but I tried to prep you for it. What are the ingredients to make sure that we don't get back in that situation again, aside from bad luck, which you can't do anything about?
Yeah, exactly what you said. It's been like a perfect storm, and the way the club's been run has been hopeless at the end of the day. We just thought, you know, we've been deprived of money for so long. We were in that situation maybe because of money, because of too much change of personnel on the pitch, and that's what happens. You're changing your team, losing too many key players, having injuries or suspensions, put you in these certain situations that happened this season, happened 24 years ago. But the one thing I think every Everton fan wanted was a bit of money. So can we go out and try and attract the best players here and there? And when we got that, we thought that was the answer. And we hope we're going to be like Chelsea or like Manchester City, that one day we'll be able to be up there challenging. And that was our hope and our expectations. And unfortunately, we spent the money, totally wrong. We've ended up going down the Leeds route basically, and other teams have come in. QPR had the richest guys, and they spent so much money on the wrong personnel, and we've sort of lost our identity as a football club. So moving forward, I think we've learned a harsh lesson, or the owners have. What we're going to do in the future is all down to luck. Football's difficult. The Premier League is very, very competitive, and we need to try and keep our key players fit. Keeping your key players fit is really important. That is down to luck at times. You just can't help it. It matters. But we just seem to have a cloud over our football club last season. So many key players were injured. Are they putting the body on the line? Are they giving everything out there? Did he think Everton was an easy ride? You want players to become to the football club to improve themselves. And if they improve themselves, hopefully it improves our team and our club and our league position. You've got to keep them hungry. We don't want players coming in for the final paycheck. You can bring the odd one or two luxury players in like that. Like we brought in James, but you've seen the ability he played. Didn't play enough games for me. But when he did play, because the ability, we totally missed that last year. We totally missed our sort of number 10s as well, creating opportunities. We didn't have a striker. So last season was a perfect storm. I said before, every mistake we made, we got punished. But we lost our flair players. We lost our guys who can split defences, who can deliver good balls in. And we've been, looking at them for the last 3 or 4 years to be our key players. And when they're all gone, you're looking to who's going to step up to the plate. And, I think Anthony Gordon's come in to step up to the plate. He's taking that responsibility, whether he's good enough to do it or not. But he must be the best at Finch Farm. He's putting himself on the line to put it in. So no one else there who's got the attitude to go, well, I've got the ability to put this ball on the spot for us. And let's what happens in the future with maybe DCL, with Richarlison and all other key players. I'll be keeping them. I'll be here for next season. But whoever comes in, I think Frank now really understands the situation we're in. Owners, directors will understand. You've got to leave these decisions to football people. Not to give them everything. You've got to rein them in. You've got to have I feel you've got to have an identity of the football club. It makes it easier. You can balance it. You can give the manager, who do you want to bring as players? But in the meantime, we're bringing these youth players in because we're building them up. It's a business. At the end of the day, we want to have an identity of a football club. But the change of 5-6 managers, it's really hampered the academy. It's really hampered the 16s, 18s, 21s because they're working towards a system. They're looking at a pathway of, I'm going to be the next, left back. I want to try and get in that hole. And then all of a sudden, the manager comes in and plays 3 at the back. The left back position's gone. The midfield position's gone. Then you bring another manager who totally changed that formation. So that kills your whole identity because you've give the manager the head to run the football club because we've lost our identity. And I feel like bringing in someone really strong, like Kevin Thirlwell's there now. He looks like he's trying to bring in, get a structure in place, but we've got to be strong and he's got to be strong to go, Frank, okay, which players do you want? But also we need players that's going to protect our future of a football club and keep our identity. And hopefully that can gel. Look, we're not going to be touching top of the league, unfortunately, for a few years. It's going to take, this process takes a long time. We've got to be patient. But I think from a last season's point of view, the disappointments from it all, that I think the fans will be a bit more patient. Our expectations of being sort of slapped across our faces because of the money we spent on players and they haven't delivered. So it's a difficult job in hand, but let's hope it doesn't happen again in the next 20, 30, 40, or 100 years or so. I'm proud that Everton have been in the league longer than anybody else, and a long like that continue.
Superb, Paulie. Three words are picked out there amongst some of the brilliant points you made: consistency, identity, and patience. Consistency for me, I couldn't agree more. We need that. Whether it's consistency from the management structure, it doesn't always have to be the coach. Do you know what I mean? I think you can. I believe you can replace coaches. I think they are, disposable at times, provided that the infrastructure around it is consistent and they've got a plan. Identity for me is key of what this club, the way this club wants to go forward, the way this club wants to do business. I mean, you look at them across the park. Every time they do a deal, it's a good deal, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And
it is. It's easy because they've had that consistency. You know, if you look at the, I know it's a totally different level, but if you look at the Barcelonas or the Ajaxes, they have a system, they have a style of play that they're used to. So as you say, coaches then can come and go. You can change the coaches. Chelsea changed the coaches when they're bored. You know, they end up being successful because they had a certain style of play that they're going to focus on. So it's easy in the transfer market to go, well, one's moving on, we're bringing some player in similar who's got a couple of more years younger. That's the easy way. Unfortunately, we're right at the bottom at this moment in time. We've got no identity. Frank's hopefully going to try and implement his style, but the club needs to have an identity from the top bottom.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think patience for me is a massive one because, like you say, it's not going to be that summer anymore. We're not going to have them summers anymore to a certain extent, thankfully, where we're going to go and spend 200 million and we're going to bring 7-8 players in. What we need now, I think, is two players, 3 players a summer that are going to improve in certain positions, go again the following summer. We're going to also have to accept that we're going to lose the odd top quality player, but we've got to try and identify the next player to come replace them early enough. And I think that the patience and understanding of the fans is really important. We've seen it, like you say, we've seen what can happen even with money. That it's not a recipe for guaranteed success. Nothing beats for me, a sustained building process of, going in that direction, calling it, 3, 5, 7 year project. But I'd love in 5 years' time to see a team that we've seen grow and mature over 3-4 years. Characters that we love again. Like it, you looked around at that team midway through the season. I don't know about you, and my daughter always says to me, "Who's your favourite player, Daddy?" If she asked me midway through last season, I couldn't even call one. I mean, you may be saying Coleman, and because he's he loves the club, but I was really struggling, and I want that. I want to get back to that in 3-5 years.
Yeah, the fans always love the icon. They always want someone to cheer. They always want a song to sing to get the players going, to get the occasion going. And it was struggling last season. Obviously, when Richie scores, it's great. It was good, but the fans. I'm there as a fan now. I get angry just watching it every time we get beat or we make a mistake. I get frustrated, but I've got to sort of rein myself back in again and realise the situation we're in when we're not a top team. We do get spoiled watching other teams, like watching other ex-team Man City. You watch them play football. I can't expect Everton to go and play like Man City. You're watching 2 different levels. Your sort of expectations of your own team sometimes as a fan goes too far. You've got to be a bit realisation of where we are currently as a team and as a club, and that's just going to take time and patience from myself and from fans. When you make a mistake, you do get your moans and groans. That happens. That's football, no matter. But I think we've learned as a fan base that getting behind this club or this team, I should say, Frank Lampard, getting behind Frank and the team will get us more points than not. At the end of the day, and that's it's not sort of trying to paper over the cracks. We know we want to be up there challenging in a few years' time. We want the best. We want to win every game, of course, but realise that that's not going to happen. But get behind the players, get behind Frank, and for that 90 minutes, fingers crossed we get positive results after the game. Then we can chew the fat and where did it all go wrong and right.
Brilliant. No, thanks a lot, Bully. And again, for anyone who's listening to this, it's probably going to be reaching you around July time, so hopefully you're lying on a beach and you're thinking about next season, and that's our message is let's stay behind the club. Let's make sure we don't get back in that situation again of the Coventrys, of the Crystal Palaces, and that we're looking forwards. Again, Paulie, thanks for your time. Just before we go, I've got to mention View from the Bullens, your podcast that you're on. You've got a Patreon. Again, if anyone who's enjoyed listening to Paulie, which I always do, get on them. Fantastic podcast, proper blues, a really good listen. And obviously check out Paulie's column in the Echo as well. Always a good read and honest from a proper blues being there. So thanks again, Paulie. Appreciate your time and enjoy your summer.
No worries. Cheers, Judgy.